Asterisk what happens when a single father's dating app mistake leads to a life-changing pregnancy with his ex's sister? A story about second chances, complicated family dynamics, and finding love in the most unexpected places, asterisk. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional family dramas that explore the messy, beautiful reality of modern relationships. Jake's thumb hovered over his phone screen, his eyes heavy from another late night of single parenting. The dating app glowed in the darkness of his living room, the only light besides the moon filtering through half-drawn blinds. His 5-year-old daughter Emma was finally asleep after 3 bedtime stories and a lengthy discussion about why the moon followed their car everywhere. He scrolled mindlessly, the faces blurring together until he stopped on a familiar smile. Those eyes. That dimple. His heart skipped. Olivia, he whispered to himself, squinting at the profile. It wasn't his ex-wife Melissa, but her younger sister Olivia. The family resemblance was striking, but where Melissa had always been carefully composed, Olivia's photos showed her laughing freely, hiking on muddy trails, and making silly faces with what looked like her kindergarten students. Jake hesitated. Dating his ex's sister would be complicated at best, catastrophic at worst. But something about her genuine smile made his thumb tap the heart icon before his brain could intervene. He immediately regretted it. No, 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 he muttered, frantically trying to undo his action, but the app cheerfully informed him that Olivia would be notified of his interest. Jake tossed his phone aside and ran his hands through his hair. 3 years since the divorce, and he was still making impulsive decisions at 1 a.m. He'd have to apologize, explain it was an accident. Melissa would probably hear about it too. The custody arrangement was finally stable, Emma was adjusting. This could complicate everything. His phone pinged. It's a match. Olivia stared at her phone in disbelief. Jake Miller had liked her profile. Her brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law, had liked her profile. The same Jake who had been married to her sister for 7 years before their bitter divorce. She should ignore it. She should definitely ignore it. But she'd always liked Jake. Not in that way, or at least, she'd never allowed herself to think of him in that way. He'd been kind, funny, devoted to Emma. The divorce had been messy, with Melissa moving across the country for a job opportunity, leaving Jake to raise Emma primarily on his own. Olivia had stayed in touch, sending birthday gifts to her niece, occasional texts to check in. Always careful to maintain appropriate boundaries. She'd watched from a distance as Jake rebuilt his life, admiring his dedication to Emma. And now, at 32, single after ending a long-term relationship with a man who didn't want children, she found herself wondering, what if? Her finger tapped match before she could talk herself out of it. Their first date was at a quiet coffee shop far from their usual haunts. Jake arrived early, nervously adjusting his shirt collar. When Olivia walked in, her hair caught in the autumn breeze, he felt a flutter in his chest he hadn't experienced in years. "This is probably a terrible idea," were her first words as she sat down. Jake laughed, tension breaking. "I was thinking the same thing. Melissa would lose her mind. Emma might be confused." They looked at each other across the table, both waiting for the other to suggest they end this experiment before it began. Instead, Olivia said, "I've always thought you were a wonderful father." "I've always admired how you connect with your students," Jake replied. 3 hours later, they were still talking, the coffee shop preparing to close around them. Their relationship developed in secret at first. Coffee dates while Emma was at school. Late-night phone calls after bedtime. They discovered shared passions for hiking, old movies, and terrible puns that Melissa had never appreciated. "We should tell her," Olivia said one evening, curled against Jake on his couch after Emma was asleep. "Before this goes any further." Jake nodded, tracing patterns on her arm. "I know. But she's coming to visit Emma next month. Maybe we should wait until after." Olivia agreed, though the secrecy felt increasingly uncomfortable. She loved spending time with Emma, who was delighted to have her favorite aunt around more often. But she was careful to maintain the appearance of a family friend when they were together, not wanting to confuse her niece. The weeks passed in a blur of quiet intimacy and growing connection. What had started as an accidental like had become the most meaningful relationship either had experienced in years. Then came the night that changed everything. Olivia stared at the pregnancy test, the 2 pink lines unmistakable despite her trembling hands. She and Jake had been careful, but apparently not careful enough. She sank to the bathroom floor, mind racing. They'd only been dating for 3 months. They hadn't even told Melissa yet. And now, a baby? Her phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Emma's asking if Aunt Livy can come for movie night. You in? Olivia pressed her forehead against the cool tile wall. How was she going to tell him? Jake knew something was wrong the moment Olivia arrived. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, and she barely touched the pizza they'd ordered. After Emma went to bed, clutching the stuffed penguin Olivia had given her, they sat in tense silence on the couch. I'm pregnant, Olivia finally said, her voice barely audible. Jake froze, his mind struggling to process her words. We're. I know it's not what we planned, she continued, tears forming. It's too soon, and with our situation, with Melissa, with Emma, it's complicated. I wanted you to know. Whatever you decide, I'm keeping this baby. Jake reached for her hand, his thoughts a chaotic swirl. Another child. A baby with Olivia. His ex-wife's sister carrying his child. It was overwhelming, terrifying, and yet. I'm not going anywhere, he said firmly, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. We'll figure this out. Together. Olivia's tears spilled over, relief and fear mingling. Melissa is going to kill us. Probably, Jake agreed, pulling her close. But we've faced worse. Telling Emma was surprisingly easy. At 5, her main concern was whether the baby would like dinosaurs as much as she did. Telling Melissa, however, was another matter entirely. They decided to do it during her scheduled visit to see Emma. Jake invited Melissa to coffee the day after she arrived, while Emma was at school. Olivia insisted on being present. You're what? Melissa's voice cut through the cafe, drawing stares from nearby tables. We've been seeing each other, Jake repeated calmly. And Olivia is pregnant. Melissa's face flushed with anger. My sister? Really, Jake? Of all the women in this city, you had to go after my sister? It wasn't like that, Olivia interjected. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Liv. You make choices. Melissa's eyes narrowed. How long has this been going on? Were you waiting in the wings during our marriage? That's enough, Jake said firmly. Our marriage ended 3 years ago, Melissa. You moved across the country. We've both moved on. With my sister? Melissa stood abruptly. This is going to confuse Emma. Have you thought about that? About how this affects our daughter? Of course we have, Olivia said quietly. Emma is our priority too. Melissa gathered her purse, shaking her head. I need time to process this. I'll see Emma as planned, but don't expect me to play happy family with you too. After she left, Jake and Olivia sat in silence, hands intertwined under the table. That went about as well as expected, Jake finally said. Olivia squeezed his hand. It's just the beginning. She'll come around. But both wondered if that was true. The pregnancy progressed, and with it, the complexity of their situation. Melissa remained cold during her visits with Emma, though she was careful not to disparage Olivia or Jake in front of their daughter. Emma, for her part, was thrilled about becoming a big sister and took to patting Olivia's growing belly and telling the baby about all the toys they would share. Family gatherings became diplomatic nightmares. Olivia's parents were caught between supporting their pregnant daughter and sympathizing with their other daughter's feelings of betrayal. Jake's parents were simply happy to have another grandchild on the way, though they worried about the tension. Through it all, Jake and Olivia's relationship deepened. What had begun as attraction evolved into partnership as they navigated doctor's appointments, prepared the nursery, and planned for their future. They moved in together when Olivia was 6 months along, converting Jake's home office into a nursery painted soft green. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked one night as they lay in bed, his hand resting on her rounded belly. "That accidental like that started all this?" Olivia turned to face him, her expression serious. "Sometimes I think about how much simpler life would be if we'd never connected that night. No family drama, no complicated explanations for Emma, no juggling a newborn with everything else." Jake nodded, understanding. "But then," she continued, placing her hand over his, "I feel this little one move, and I see how you look at me, and I know I wouldn't change a thing. Some accidents are actually the universe course-correcting." Jake leaned in to kiss her. "I think you're right. Though maybe we should wait a while before telling our kid they were a dating app accident." Olivia laughed, the sound warming him from within. "Definitely a story for their 30th birthday, at least." The call came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Olivia's water had broken, a month earlier than expected. Jake called his neighbor to stay with Emma and drove Olivia to the hospital, his heart pounding with fear and excitement. The labor was difficult. Complications arose, and Olivia was rushed into emergency surgery for a C-section. Jake paced the waiting room, calling family members with shaking hands. To his surprise, Melissa was the first to arrive. "Is she okay?" she asked, her face drawn with worry. Jake shook his head. "I don't know yet. They took her for an emergency C-section." Melissa sat beside him, awkwardly patting his arm. "Liv is strong. She'll be fine." They sat in silence for a while before Melissa spoke again. "I've been unfair to you both. I was hurt and surprised, but Olivia deserves to be happy. You both do." Jake looked at her in surprise. "Thank you. That means a lot, especially now." "Don't get me wrong," Melissa added with a hint of her old sharpness. "It's still weird as hell. But family is family." When the doctor finally appeared, his expression was serious but relieved. "Mother and baby are stable. It was touch and go for a while, we had some bleeding issues, but they're fighters." Jake felt his knees weaken with relief. "Can I see them?" "In a few minutes." "Congratulations, by the way. You have a healthy son." Noah James Miller entered the world small but mighty, as the nurses put it. Jake held his son with trembling hands, marveling at the tiny features that somehow combined his and Olivia's. When Emma met her brother for the first time, her eyes widened with wonder. "He's so tiny. Was I that small?" "Even smaller," Jake told her, helping her hold the baby with careful supervision. Recovery was slow. Olivia spent a week in the hospital, and the early days at home were a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and adjusting to their new reality. Jake took extended leave from work, determined to support Olivia through her physical recovery while helping Emma adapt to the changes. To everyone's surprise, Melissa became an unexpected source of support. She extended her visit, helping with Emma and even occasionally with Noah, though she still maintained some emotional distance from Jake and Olivia's relationship. "He has your nose," she told Olivia one afternoon as they sat together while Noah slept. "Poor kid." Olivia laughed softly. "The Miller chin, though. Just like Emma." Melissa was quiet for a moment. "You know, when I first found out, I felt like you'd stolen something from me. Which is ridiculous because Jake and I were over long ago." "It wasn't intentional," Olivia said. "We never meant to hurt you." "I know that now." Melissa sighed. Life takes strange turns. Who would have thought we'd end up here? Certainly not me, Olivia admitted. But I'm glad we're finding our way through it. The first year with Noah was a whirlwind of milestones and challenges. Jake and Olivia navigated parenthood together, finding their rhythm as partners and parents. Emma blossomed as a big sister, proudly showing Noah her favorite books and toys. Family gatherings gradually became less tense. Melissa began dating someone new, which seemed to help her fully accept Jake and Olivia's relationship. The sisters slowly rebuilt their bond, different now but perhaps stronger for having weathered the storm. On Noah's first birthday, surrounded by family and friends, Jake pulled Olivia aside to the quiet of their backyard. "This past year has been the most challenging and rewarding of my life," he said, taking her hands in his. "I never expected to find love again, especially not with you. But that accidental like was the best mistake I ever made." He knelt down, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Olivia Bennett, will you marry me? Make our unconventional family official?" Tears filled Olivia's eyes as she nodded. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." From the patio door came a small cheer. They turned to see Emma watching them, Noah on her hip with help from Melissa. "Did she say yes, Daddy?" Emma called. "She did, sweetheart," Jake answered, his heart full. Melissa stepped forward, genuine happiness in her eyes despite the complexity of the situation. "Congratulations, you two. I mean it." As they all moved inside to share the news with the rest of the family, Jake reflected on the strange, winding path that had led them here. One accidental like on a dating app had changed everything, creating ripples that transformed not just his life but the lives of everyone he loved. Sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest joys. Sometimes family is found in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe knows what it's doing even when we think we've messed everything up. Thank you for watching this story of love, family, and second chances. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional family dramas that explore the beautiful complexity of modern relationships. Remember, sometimes our biggest mistakes lead to our greatest blessings. See you in the next video. The wedding was small but joyful, held in the garden of Jake and Olivia's new home, a modest 4-bedroom they'd purchased to accommodate their growing family. Emma, now 7, served as flower girl, solemnly scattering rose petals before breaking into skips halfway down the aisle. 2-year-old Noah toddled alongside her, carrying a small pillow with rings that were securely sewn on after Jake had nightmares about them getting lost. To everyone's surprise, Melissa had offered to help plan the ceremony. "I'm the only one who knows both your tastes," she'd said pragmatically. Besides, Emma needs someone to help her process all this. The gesture had meant more than any of them could express, a final acknowledgement that the past was behind them and this new, unconventional family configuration was here to stay. As Olivia walked toward Jake, her simple white dress catching the late afternoon sunlight, she caught her sister's eye in the small gathering of guests. Melissa gave her a small nod, and Olivia felt the last weight lift from her shoulders. "We gather here today to celebrate the union of two people whose path to each other was anything but traditional," the officiant began, drawing gentle laughter from the guests who knew their story. Jake squeezed Olivia's hands as they exchanged vows they'd written themselves. "I promise to love you through algorithm errors and family complications," Jake said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "To build our unexpected life together with intention and care. I promise to cherish every day of this journey we never planned," Olivia responded. "To remember that sometimes the best things in life come from our biggest mistakes." When they were pronounced husband and wife, Emma cheered loudest of all, jumping up and down until Noah joined her, not understanding but delighted by the celebration. At the reception, Melissa approached them, champagne in hand. "I never thought I'd say this, but you two make sense together. Always did, if I'm being honest." "Thank you," Olivia said, embracing her sister. "For everything." Just promise me one thing, Melissa said, looking between them. Tell Noah the truth about how you met when he's old enough. That dating app story is too good to keep secret. 5 years later, their family had found its rhythm. Jake had been promoted to creative director at his advertising firm, allowing him more flexible hours. Olivia had returned to teaching kindergarten part-time, finding joy in balancing her classroom of little ones with her own growing children. Emma, now 12 and entering the challenging middle school years, remained a devoted big sister, though she'd recently begun requesting more privacy and rolling her eyes at family movie nights she once cherished. Noah, at 7, was all energy and curiosity, with his mother's dimples and his father's determined nature. He'd recently developed an obsession with space and covered his bedroom walls with glow-in-the-dark stars. And then there was 3-year-old Lily, their surprise addition who arrived just after their 2nd anniversary. With her, their family felt complete. One evening, as Jake helped Emma with her science project in the dining room and Lily napped upstairs, Olivia found Noah sitting quietly on the porch swing, looking thoughtful. "What's on your mind, space explorer?" she asked, sitting beside him. Noah looked up at her with serious eyes. "Tommy at school said his parents met in college. How did you and Dad meet?" Olivia hesitated, catching Jake's eye through the window. They'd agreed to be honest with the children about their family's origins, in age-appropriate ways. Emma knew the basics, that Daddy had been married to Aunt Melissa first, then later fell in love with Mommy. "Well," Olivia began carefully, "your dad and I met because of a mistake." Noah's eyes widened. "A mistake?" "Sometimes the best things happen by accident," she explained. "Your dad was looking at pictures of people on his phone one night, and he accidentally clicked on my picture. That's how we started talking. Like when I accidentally pressed the wrong button on the TV remote and found that cool dinosaur show?" Olivia laughed. "Something like that. The point is, that accident turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to us, because it led to you and our family." Noah considered this, swinging his legs. "So mistakes can be good?" "Some of them, yes. Especially when they lead you to where you're supposed to be, even if you didn't know that's where you were going." Noah nodded, seemingly satisfied. "I'm glad Dad made that mistake." "Me too, buddy." "Me too." That night, after the children were asleep, Jake and Olivia sat on their back porch, sharing a bottle of wine under the stars. "Noah asked about how we met today," Olivia said, leaning against Jake's shoulder. Jake chuckled. "The famous accidental like. What did you tell him?" "A simplified version. That sometimes mistakes lead us to where we're meant to be." Jake wrapped his arm around her, pulling her closer. 7 years ago, I was a sleep-deprived single dad making poor decisions at 1 a.m. Now look at us." They gazed at their home, windows glowing softly with night lights from the children's rooms. The path had been complicated: family therapy sessions, difficult conversations, learning to co-parent across complex relationships. There had been tears and frustration, moments of doubt and uncertainty. But there had also been joy. First steps and first words. Family vacations and holiday traditions they created together. The gradual healing of old wounds and the building of something new and strong. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't accidentally liked your profile that night?" Jake asked. Olivia considered the question. "I think about it sometimes. We might have gone our whole lives just being ex-in-laws who exchanged pleasantries at Emma's graduations." "What a waste that would have been," Jake murmured, kissing her temple. "The universe has strange ways of bringing people together," Olivia said. "Dating apps, accidental likes, unexpected pregnancies." "Speaking of which," Jake said, setting down his wine glass and turning to face her. "I saw the test in the bathroom trash this morning." Olivia's eyes widened. "I was going to tell you tonight. I'm only 6 weeks along. Are you okay with this?" Jake's face broke into a wide smile. Another beautiful mistake to add to our collection? I couldn't be happier. As they sat together under the stars, planning for their newest addition, Olivia reflected on the strange, winding journey that had brought them here. One accidental like had set in motion a cascade of events that transformed their lives in ways they could never have imagined. Family wasn't always what you expected. Love didn't always arrive in the package you anticipated. Sometimes the most beautiful stories began with mistakes, with complications, with challenges that seemed insurmountable. But with patience, forgiveness, and courage, those complicated beginnings could lead to the most meaningful endings, or rather, to new beginnings that continued to unfold in unexpected ways. As Jake placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach, Olivia knew with certainty that she wouldn't change a single step of their journey, no matter how difficult or unconventional it had been. Every mistake, every challenge had led them exactly where they were meant to be, together, surrounded by the family they had created, ready to welcome one more unexpected blessing into their perfectly imperfect life. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional family dramas that explore the beautiful messiness of real life. Remember that sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as mistakes, and the most meaningful journeys rarely follow a straight path. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.